What's going on, guys? We are Tottenham TV here, back with another video for you guys, and we got Ben from the Travelling Blades to give us a bit of an opposition preview with the upcoming game against Sheffield United at Bramall Lane this Thursday. How are you doing, Ben? Welcome to the channel.
Yeah, thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. As you can see by a little background here, we're in Bramall Lane at the moment. We'll change it from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium because we got an away game. Obviously, you guys have been one of the stories of the season. Well, you were, I would say, before the lockdown, for sure. You, as in challenging for Europe after coming up from the Championship under Chris Wilder, who's done such an amazing job there. Tell me, what's the form looking like going into this game, and what obviously we know you can see since lockdown form hasn't been great, and is there a reason for that?
So I think one of the things is that even during the normal season, I think even back in the Championship, we always seem to struggle after international breaks. Like we'd pick up a good bit of momentum, then the international break would come, and we would always seem to lose the following game 2 weeks later. And that 3-month break, I mean, I thought we were going to be sharp and ready and fit, but we looked like it was their first game of football they'd ever played. The first 3 games, we had the go against us away at Villa Park. I think that the heads dropped when that wasn't given, morale dropped, and we really just looked unfit. We didn't look sharp at all, unprepared. We looked like amateurs. Although we did lose 2-1 to Arsenal in the FA Cup, we did look much, much better, and it was a much more promising and, in fact, reassuring, because I was quite worried. I mean, I was relieved that we've done our hard work early on, and we're not like Norwich or Villa, where we're fighting for survival. We're safe. We've not really got much to play for. I suppose Europe, but that was just always a bit of a dream. But I think in the Arsenal game, it did look much, although we lost 2-1, it was much better and much more like how we can play.
Do you consider yourselves out of the European race now? After you looked well in it, but do you think since you're dropping form, do you not even look at that now? You just want to finish mid-table and see where next season goes?
I mean, I think we've got, is it 8 or 7 games left? So there's enough points there to clamber back up, but I mean, Champions League, that's pretty much gone. Europa League, I think even that's going to be unlikely, especially with the form that Wolves seem to be in. Man U seem to be, doing quite well as well. They've returned, they gave us an absolute pasting at Old Trafford. Should have been at least about 5 or 6 goals that evening. You've got Everton that could overtake because Arsenal are close behind us now. I mean, I really don't know. I think it's going to be a good litmus test against you guys on Thursday night. We played much better against Arsenal. That's just an FA Cup game where, even though the fans aren't there, like I think being back at Bramall Lane for an FA Cup quarter-final just gave the players a bit of a boost. Whether we can take that performance into the league against you, like I said, a lot of people will look at that and go, "Oh, Sheffield weren't great," but having watched our first 3 games in entirety and then that cup game, it was like a different team. It was far better, just so much more cohesive, positive, actually trying to create chances. People said, "Oh, you missed chances." We didn't even have chances to miss in the first 3 games, to be honest. So it was nice to have chances to even if we missed them. So hopefully we can carry that form from the cup game through to Thursday night, back at Bramall Lane. I know the fans aren't there, which is costing us, but we played much better there than we did on the away games.
Talking about the technology you're talking about, obviously there was that crazy ghost goal you're talking about against Aston Villa on the first game back after the restart. It seems to be a theme with Sheffield United season, kind of being a bit screwed over by either VAR decisions or technology not working properly. I remember the game back at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium back in, I think it was October or November. That very minuscule offside decision, which was literally the pixels of the TV that we're talking about here, which was ruled offside. What is your view of how technology has affected your season?
I think it's between us and Wolves that have been the most negatively affected this season. I forget the numbers of how many, but we are definitely, I think, in the top 2 for the people that have had the most VAR decisions, whether it be goals, red cards, penalties. go against them. It'd be interesting to see where we would have been if there wasn't any VAR and those decisions that have gone against us went for us. Remember, that one was very frustrating and very dubious as well. I agree with the concept of VAR, but I think the execution has been absolutely useless. It's been horrendous, shambolic. No one's really known. It's been inconsistent. It seems to change game to game, ref to ref over what is a decision, what isn't a decision. The frame rate. I think that he's mentioned our goal away at Tottenham, away at your ground. It was a really blurry image. It was ambiguous. Whether his toenails off. He had fluorescent boots on, obviously distorting the pixels. It was, and then another thing with that one though, the worst thing with that is that let's just say that John Lundstrom was offside. That wasn't even in the same phase of play as the goal. He crossed the ball in. Eric Dyer headed it out. So doesn't that reset the phase of play? And then from then it was fine. So it was. I don't know how far they wanted to go back that game. Maybe back to like 1992 to see if Brian Dean was offside against Glenn. Who knows? Honestly.
Yeah,
I'm not. I thought I was over it, but you brought it up, and I'm not. Honestly.
I wonder if we're still trying to get over that Carling Cup semi-final from 2015. No. I don't know if you're still over that yet.
I mean, that we were just outplayed. That was a good game. It was fun to be part of. We were back in League One, so it was fun. Christian Eriksen with the free kick of his life at Bramall Lane. Yeah. I was just like, what can you do? And then Che Adams burst onto the scene. It was now at Southampton. So it was a memorable night at the Lane, but he was like one of them, like, fair play. We're losing to a team 2 leagues above us. I think you had Kane that evening, Eriksen, probably amongst a lot of other talent. I think we were like in the playoffs of League One, so it was heartbreaking, but I was proud that evening, and he didn't cheat, so fair play.
Was Chris Wilder your manager back then? Has he been your manager for that long?
No, it was Nigel Clough. Chris Wilder's been in since 2016.
I just want to ask about Chris Wilder because he's done a top job. Obviously, it's clear to see what a good job he's done over at Sheffield United, and having you guys battling, especially for European places, for most of the season. And now it looks like we're a top half, still a pretty good achievement. How good of a manager do you think he is? And do you think he has the potential to go to a real, no disrespect to you, but a team up, like, would a team up at the top of the league be interested in him, do you think?
I mean, he's done an incredible job, and I think he's one of the best managers in the game and the league. Given what he's done, you see a lot of managers can go down to lower leagues and get teams into League Two or out of League Two and up into the Championship. But he's done it at every, he's done it at every level. I think he had a while at Oxford. He got them from the Conference to the Football League. Then he got Northampton from League Two to League One. Then he's taken us from the depths of League One, like even not just League One, but like from the bottom of League One at one point, all the way to about, I think we're about 8th or 9th now in the Premier League. It's ridiculous. I mean, but I think there's a lot of that where people say it's often one of them where if ever Everton are looking for a manager or Burnley, he's always linked. But I still think there's a lot of snobbery about him. So I think if you see managers such as, for instance, the perfect example is probably Pochettino. Is a perfect Premier League manager, in terms of his appearance. He's foreign. His name's Mauricio Pochettino. He's got a sharp haircut, nice coat, cracking foreign accent. Whereas you see Chris Wilder rock up, he's grey, a bit bald. He's got his Adidas tracksuit on. He's called Chris. He's a bit short, a bit lumpy. He's got a strong, Yorkshire accent. No nonsense talking. And I don't think, I think top 6 clubs, they're not really looking for that. I think if it was Christoph Waldinho, and it was a bit about 10 years younger, dark hair, he might get into other clubs. But like Marco Silva, another very trendy manager that he'd probably walk into a lot of clubs, even without not even the greatest of CVs. Another thing is with Chris Wilder, with this Sheffield side, he's very good, but it's all... he's built it around himself now. It's very familiar to him. He's signed all the players. He's built it piece by piece over the course of almost 4 years now, 5 seasons. So to go from that into a complete other club, it's a lot of it is a lot of his recruitment is about personalities. He builds a dressing room before he builds the team. So to go from, for any manager, I think to go from a team, I think like Klopp now, he's been there a few years. He's been able to build the team piece by piece, like on a career mode or Football Manager. He's built it around him, what he knows. It's sort of like a legacy. So to go from that straight into like an unknown team, would it work? It might work eventually, but straight away the results wouldn't be there. And I think a lot of top six clubs, there's a bit of snobbery in the fan base. They wouldn't appreciate his work before, like I said, mentioned with Northampton and Oxford. They'd want instant results, which he might not get. He didn't even get that with us. And I think also, he wouldn't get instant results straight away. He might get rid of a few of the bigger names because they might be like they have the wrong personality. So I don't know if it'd work with the boards or the fan base. A bit of perhaps snobbery, and he wouldn't. I don't know if he'd, and not just that they'd get rid of him. I don't think he'd want to be with them. He talks no nonsense, and he's a fool. He's no one's fool. So if he wants to walk, he'd just walk.
Can I ask you about you, because you mentioned there's a bit of snobbery around Chris Wilder. Do you think sometimes managers like him they can get criticised a bit for actually getting the best out of the squad that they have? In terms of, obviously, your squad is it no disrespect to the team players you have, but they're not the probably the most technically gifted in the Premier League. But because he's got a certain system where he revolves the team around the defence, and you've got a really strong defensive record, that's obviously propelled you up the table. But do you think his tactics are defensive because of the players you have?
I mean, he's played the same. They played the same way, the same formation. I think pretty much every single game, from whether we were bottom of League One looking for our first win of the season at home to Oxford United, or we're going away to Anfield looking to try and pursue European football. We've played the sort of 3-5-2, 5-3-2, 3 centre-backs, your wing-backs, 3 midfielders, 2 strikers. He's not changed that at all. It's the same formation. It can change within the game. He's not frightened to... We've often had like 3, I think maybe even once 4 strikers on at a game once. I think he once said if he could, he'd get rid of the goalkeeper and put another striker on. So he plays pretty much the same. He's got his recipe. He's got his formula. It changes within the game. He's not scared to change it within the game, especially as the game goes on and the scoreline changes. Perhaps. Obviously, I think like with Sheffield United, it's definitely the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. I think before, like some of the players. So we've got John Fleck, one of our players of the season. I think is our joint top scorer. We signed him for free from Coventry. Ender Stevens, we got him from Portsmouth in League Two. Chris Basham, he was here a few seasons before Chris Wilder, with like a few $100,000 from Blackpool. He's now, I think he dribbled past De Bruyne at one point this season. But I think he brings more out of players than anyone, including the players themselves, ever knew they could. And it's not just the way he sets up. I think it's definitely his personality, his manner with the players, his man management. Like he said, his recruitment is, I think, primarily to do with personalities. He needs to foster that environment. We've got some great leaders in there. People like Phil Jagielka, Billy Sharp, who will be great mentors, who have been through a lot. I mean, especially Billy Sharp, been through a lot on and off the field. And when you've got younger strikers like Ollie McBurney or Lys Mousset, he's a great role model for them. So he fosters sort of like an ethos around the club. He's the bond. He helps form that bond between, the fans and the players. Obviously, we adore them, and you can tell they really love being part of the club here. Like, for instance, we've had players that have been labelled journeymen, such as like Leon Clark, who's not had much of the run in the Prem, or David McGoldrick, who's just gone from club to club, not really found a home. And they'll probably move on from here, perhaps, at some point. But you can just see that, it sounds biased, but like I think they've said like they've never been at a club like this with a manager or a captain like this and never felt at home. And you can see how much it means to them. Like when they score and like turn to the Kop, it's like they've gone from club to club and it's meant nothing, but they've found a home here. And I think like it's something you can't really quantify, and it's never going to be using a stats or a stats spreadsheet where it's just Chris Wilder's personality and the way that his man management and the ethos and the team spirit that he's meticulously fostered around the club. And it's taken him, it's year by year. And it's just you can't quantify it, you can't buy it. It's just your manager's either got it or he hasn't. It's one of the things Ferguson had. It's just his sort of mannerisms and his personality that builds these great teams. And it's something about Chris Wilder that's got these bunch of players, these misfits from the lower leagues, from League One all the way to the Premier League, with pretty much the same spine and the same formation to each game.
You were talking about your team being greater than the sum of its parts, and that's obviously a part of the identity of a Chris Wilder team. But do you think there are any players in your team that maybe go a bit under the radar, maybe a bit underrated, maybe a bit better than people think they are? Obviously you've got Dean Henderson in goal, who's on loan from Man United. There's talk of him being a future England #1. But there's as well as him, is there any other players as well in your team?
I think we've got. I mean, it's hard. I think John Fleck. Maybe the last couple of games hasn't been. Well, none of the teams really been great. I think John Fleck has been monumental this season. Often gets overlooked, even within our own team. I think because we've got Ollie Norwood, who has you more sweeping passes, and even they. I mean, sometimes I think he gets overlooked a lot. You see people like. I think there was Paul Pogba played a pass in when you played them, and it was like, everyone was like drooling over it. I'm thinking. And then like all these Sheffield fans were just like replying with like videos of like passes from Ollie Norwood this season in the Prem, like no one mentioned them. It's like he's just doing the same thing, but because he's not called Paul Pogba or in a Man United shirt, he's not getting a mention. Like I said, John Fleck's been incredible for us. I mean, sometimes he can do a lot. He can do a great pass. He got a great left foot. He can do a lot of technical. He can do gritty work as well, throwing himself in there. Got a few goals, but I think also, I mean, it's hard for me to think now because I think he's been one of the worst players since the restart. But the rest of the season, he's been incredible. Is Ender Stevens? Obviously, I think everyone mentions about Robertson and Trent for the wing backs, but I think our two boys, George Baldock, who was actually a Spurs fan, I believe. I think he went to the Champions League final. Ender Stevens, they're as our wing backs, they've been incredible for us. I mean, Ender Stevens, he's been nutmegging people every week with he got a goal, which was honestly, like I said, if Andy Robertson or Trent had scored the goal that he'd done, I think it was against Palace at Bramall Lane. It was absolutely top bins. If Trent had done that, it'd have been all over. BT Sport would have had documentaries on it. But because it's Ender Stevens that we signed from Portsmouth in League Two, no one really knows apart from the Sheffield fans that were there. And he's been incredible. He's been nutmegging people. Even at like Chelsea, just putting, turning people inside out. Great delivery into the box. He's been monumental. He's dropped off a bit of a cliff now. Hopefully can get back to the incredible form he was on. But I'd say our wing backs, and I'd probably like Fleck and Norwood as well, are more underrated because the defence get a lot of praise. But even though Stevens and Baldock are defenders, they're more like creative, attacking defenders.
Okay. Well, last question. It's hard to ignore the elephant in the room that obviously you're called the Travelling Blades, and you're not going to be doing much travelling for the rest of the season.
No.
How difficult is it for you guys? Obviously, because your fans are such a big element, creating that hostile atmosphere, especially at home. Your support, obviously, and you had a great away record as well before the lockdown. How has it affected you guys not being able to go to the games?
Well, I mean, it's hard for fans. Like when I'm going away to away games, obviously home games, like as you can imagine, there's sort of like a different vibe to home and away. And every time I go to away games, you see like the similar kind of face, and it's a real community. You see the same faces. You get to know people, talking to them, and that, especially through doing YouTube as well. And if you're going, back and forth to games with like the same kind of people, like so I'll go with like the Donny Blades, back and forth all over the country on the minibus, and it's hard for that because it's a lot. It is a big part of people's lives. It's a big social aspect of people's lives, which I think is often overlooked when you consider the importance of football in the wider community. I think it's also affecting our players. not to have our driving fans there. I mean, I'm sure you'll have it as well, where I've been to games home and away where United, their sort of heads are dropping. They've really got to dig deep to try and get a result one way or another out of the game. And you just have that rallying chant. We just have that United, United, United. And then 10 minutes later, we'll probably be like all over the game. And I've seen it several times where we've just had this rallying, nothing special, this rallying drone of just United, United. You can just see how it helps the players. We've not got that. I'd go as far to say that if fans were in the stadium the other day, we'd have won because the referee gave a few controversial decisions. Arsenal players were going down soft and then also trying to foul ours. So
No
that would have been
surprise
absolute. Well, there you go. Same old Arsenal always cheating.
There we go. If someone gets it, finally. I like that.
It would have been an absolute cauldron. I mean, absolute cauldron of a stadium. It would have been toxic. The ref would have been fearing for his life, perhaps. Same with the Arsenal players, and attacking the Kop in the second half. It's like the pitch just tilts towards their goal. It just sucks the ball into the net, and it just gives I think it influences decisions. I think people have said, obviously, you think it wouldn't, but you can't underestimate the effect, the subconscious perhaps effect on the referee, especially for a team like us going up against the likes of Arsenal, Man United, or even yourselves. It's like we might lose out on decisions to the bigger team because they're the big six team and we're just Sheffield, not even United. I mean, I was impressed you called us Sheffield United, to be honest, because everyone just calls us Sheffield. So we lose out. So it is costing. It's hard for the fans because it's a large. Really is a community thing. I imagine, for all clubs, there is a real strong sense of community. And also for our players, I think, it's there are times where you just that rallying chant, you can't buy. It really is. It's the old cliche, the 12th man, but it really has. I've seen it myself. I helped our players, and like the other day, the Bramall Lane would have been absolutely volcanic with noise. So it's a shame we weren't there to cheer them on. I believe we would have won as well with if we had the fans there.
I don't doubt it. Of course, with no fans, Arsenal always benefit. But thank you very much for coming on, Ben.
Oh, no, thanks
Quick
for having
prediction
me.
for the game on Thursday. Quick prediction. How do you see it going?
1-1. I'll go.
1-1.
That's a bit optimistic from me.
Is that the optimistic scoreline?
Realistic, probably be 2-1 to you, but as long as we
Oh,
score
well,
a goal
you'll
that actually
definitely get a goal.
counts. Will it count though? Who knows?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Probably not.
They have to clip the toenails this week.
Exactly, extra sharp. Where can people find you if they want to find you on YouTube or Twitter?
Twitter is the traveling. I've actually changed to Stationary Blade for the social distancing. But it's at TravellingBlade. I think it's got 1 L, and then my YouTube is just TravellingBlade with 2 L's. Check out my vlogs and stuff on there.
Right, brilliant. Thanks for coming on, mate. Cheers for giving us insight into Sheffield United. Thank you, everyone. Go like and subscribe to Ben, and like and subscribe as well to this video if you like our content. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Up the Blades.